the dial, turn it loud. Miami's pride, make us proud. CanesWear crew, you hear the crowd. Hurricanes ain't backing down. Every play, every score, raising bets and raising roar. Rocky orange, green galore. All for one and one for four. We got FTSN, taking names, win it again. Podcast fam, till the end. Tune in, now let's begin.
Hello, welcome to the CanesWear Podcast on the FTSN Network. Please go ahead and like and subscribe. It's great. Got tons of information, tons of great YouTube videos and everything like that. Bobby and team do an amazing job. So thank you very much for having us. I have the awesome, the incredible, the one and only Brad Tejeda by my side today. And we're going to talk. We've got a few other guests. We're planning on Gio coming. We're planning on possibly Uncle Cliff, Armando, and the regular gang. So lots to talk about. No matter how we slice it, the Canes finished the season 10-2. And if you would have told us, that people would be a little bit saddened about 10-2 after 5-7 and 7-6 and not winning 10 games since 2016 and not winning 11 games since 2003, that's over 20 years ago. And some of our fans probably weren't even around at that time or didn't even know what football was. So this is the first time the Canes have won 10 and with a chance to win 11 in a bowl game, which is awesome. So hopefully we will go ahead and be able to make that win, get the 11th game. Hopefully everybody's going to the Pop-Tart Bowl. So we're excited. Even though it wasn't the season everybody wanted at the end, it was 10-2. We have a quarterback that we know probably should have been higher in the Heisman, but no matter what, he's got a good chance of being the number one pick in the draft. That is all great for Canes football. It puts us on the map. The last time we had a player like that has been a long, long time. So a lot of excitement around the program. Don't be down. We're going to bring you up. And welcome to the program, Jonathan, as well. Thanks for joining us. Brad, what do you got?
Brett, what's going on, man? As always, happy to talk some Canes football with the fans. We got our boy Jonathan in the building. First and second comment of the night. What's up, Jonathan, my guy? I'll be seeing you soon in Orlando for that Pop-Tart Bowl. We'll be there in attendance. Anytime there's a Miami game, me and Jonathan usually link up. So awesome. It'll be fun to see him there. And obviously the season ended a couple weeks ago. We saw this past week that our guy Cam Ward was in New York City. It's been a long time since you saw that type of caliber guy from the University of Miami be on a big stage for the Heisman candidate. And, we kind of talked a little bit about it last Tuesday in the show about we all kind of got the sense that Travis Hunter would probably end up getting the Heisman. Mm-hmm. And, even though as fans, we definitely thought that Cam Ward deserved it, it wasn't by surprise that Travis Hunter was the winner for that award. And, I think I did say last Tuesday that I wouldn't be surprised if Cam Ward finished last in voting. And sure enough, he did. He only got like 3 or 4 votes, even behind a guy like Dylan Gabriel, which was an absolute joke. Mm-hmm. But, again, this is just another reason why, the U is hated, from a media platform. If you're not a fan of Miami, they pretty much hate you, right? And you saw with Cam Ward, from a statistical standpoint, how much he was involved with the program, especially on the football field, and what he meant to this football team this year. There was no doubt about it that he should have been ahead of some of these other guys. But, hey, we saw what happened. Thankfully, our guy Cam Ward is still saying that he will be playing in the Pop-Tart Bowl. Us as fans, you got to be delighted that you're hearing our guy Cam Ward, number one, play one more time in front of the fans. But at the same time, Brett, as we know, we're going to be talking about the transfer portal here in a little bit. This thing's getting crazy, and we still don't know if Emory Williams is indeed going to be that quarterback for the future starting next year, or if we're going to dive into the transfer portal yet again. We'll talk about a specific name in particular that's getting us on this Cam Ward type of roller coaster like last season before the season started. But, even if Emory Williams is the guy, right, Brett, wouldn't you want to kind of see him in this bowl game and see if he can really, truly be that guy going forward to next year instead of seeing Cam Ward one more time?
No, I agree on that. I know everybody wants Cam, the excitement of Cam. And if Cam plays and balled out and looked great, That'd be awesome. Okay. But there is that injury opportunity that we would never want to see as Canes fans. And you can see it happen. It happens all the time in the NFL. It happens in college and nothing worse. And I think the Colorado guys may be playing, but listen, at this point in time, Cam has proved everything has to. The Miami Hurricanes would be great to win 11 games. But I think that, I have no problem if Emery is starting quarterback. We do need to see him. We saw Ja'Cory Brown last year, right? That he looked pretty good, but they realized that they needed another quarterback at that time. So they could have him, and Emery obviously wasn't healthy. So they really had to go. So they went out there and got Cam. So I think it'd be great for Cam to play, but I'm perfectly fine if he doesn't play. I'd like to see Emery. I'd like to see what he's got. He has improved a lot from his freshman year. All right. And he's still going to have Fletcher back there. He's going to have who's going to have Allen? No, Allen won't be there.
Jordan Lyle,
Mark Fletcher. So we've got some guns back there. He's going to have, some receivers, but Iowa State's going to have the same situation. They're going to be lacking players too. So I have no problem. I want that win badly for 11 wins, and we can actually say we won another bowl game, which people say, who cares? But we all do care. Let's face it. It's nothing. When we won that bowl in 2016, the Russell Athletic Bowl against West Virginia, we sold out those hats, those shirts. Everybody loved it. So people do have pride in winning. In regards to Travis Hunter, I think he definitely, I have no problem. I saw on so many Canes message boards, he's not even close to the best receiver. He's not even close to the best defensive back. Well, he had 14 touchdowns and 1,200 yards?
He's by far the best athlete and the best player lined up on the field most of the time when he's playing. So
exactly. And he played 85% of the snaps, which is unheard of. 85. Wide receivers, and the only player, there's a few players that play 50% of the game or 100% of the offensive snaps, but not everybody does. But for a receiver to play 85%, that's just amazing. And I heard him speak, and he seems like a good kid and everything like that. Seems to have his head relatively on straight. Jonte got second. He was a beast. I think Cam could have got second. And obviously Gabriel, that made no sense.
Speaking of amazing, our guy Will is in the building as well from 305 Sports Now, who does amazing work covering Miami Hurricanes football as well. Gentlemen, what is going on, Will? Hunter is once in a lifetime athlete. I completely agree.
Exactly.
And again, man, he deserved it. Absolutely. Right. And you talked about, potentially what Emory Williams or this next quarterback that could be joining the team in the future, what kind of weapons he may have. And when you look at this wide receiver room, right, in the last 48 hours, Brett, we lost another wide receiver. Pretty much your only wide receiver that was left in the program that had any type of snap count, productivity, pretty much anything you wanted to hang your hat on and kind of go into the season and say, hey, at least we still have one guy here that we're seeing develop within the program. And yet again, just like Colby Young last season, we see another wide receiver hit the portal on Isaiah Horton. That now leaves you with Ray Joseph and Shamar Kirk being your only veteran guys that aren't going to be freshmen or sophomores on this team.
It's amazing.
Who knows what happens with Ray Joseph. And then, of course, Shamar Kirk, he only played two games this past year, and I think he only had like 14 yards or something like that. Or no, I'm sorry.
You got Ray, you got JoJo.
I'm sorry. He played 2 games and had 0 catches. So Shamar Kirk was non-existent this year, and Ray Joseph obviously had 4 catches, 57 yards. This year was mostly a punt return guy, so you don't know what happens with him. And we know this story with Isaiah Horton. So, that leaves you with really no guys, right? And, again, this is going to be another position at need in the transfer portal where we're going to have to definitely get 2, even 3 guys to join this team to really help Emory Williams or a quarterback in the mix. And there's a lot of guys that have just visited Miami in the past few days that we'll get into in a little bit with me and Gio. But getting back to these comments, like we said on the social media post earlier today, make sure you guys drop comments, hit that like and subscribe button because we're going to be picking a $25 gift card winner at the end of the show. So make sure you drop your comments below. And we'll be picking a lucky fan like we usually do on the show. But Brett, with all the guys that have left the program now, we're at 30 players and counting that will be leaving the program after this Pop-Tart Bowl currently. where is your mindset at as far as what you're looking for in this offseason of the most improvement that needs to happen? Specific position group.
Well, Jonathan made a good point, and I still believe that as well. I mean, just like which is the player we had that came back? He went to the portal, but then he pulled back. One of our players. Which one was it again?
Bobby Washington.
Yeah, Bobby Washington. Right. He went into the portal, right, and then he pulled out. So as long as you don't sign with another team, you can come back. And I think that point is true. I don't think that it's not a done deal until Horton goes and signs with somebody else. And we had that in basketball. Didn't we have that? A couple of players went into the portal, then they came back. They went to the draft, they came back. It's no longer that it's not like it used to be. There's all about money. And if he can go to the portal and they say we'll give you $100,000 more, $200,000 more. He said, you know what? Just for that one little pull, you make that kind of money. That's awesome. So.
Yeah, I think Alabama, unfortunately, has got that one almost sealed up.
Okay.
Everything I've been hearing. So we'll see what happens. Maybe we do negotiate. But again, based off all the wide receivers that have visited Miami in the past, 3 or 4 days, I think Miami's in really good shape. Before we even get into the wide receivers, we had the newest Miami Hurricane join the program earlier today, and Zachariah Poyser out of Jackson State. 6'2", 190, safety, guy that has great football instincts, guy that can pretty much tackle in space. Very good. Him and Zaquan Patterson are going to be perfect together, in my opinion. He's a guy that can be used in different scenarios. I really do like the evaluation from the staff on Zachariah Poyser. I don't know if you got to watch him at all, Brett, but this was definitely a guy that had other offers. I know Florida was in the mix, LSU, Auburn, Georgia. So it was mostly Miami and a bunch of SEC schools that were going after this guy. And he was a longtime Miami Hurricane fan growing up, even though he's from the Wildwood area up here in North Central Florida. But a big-time get from Miami.
No, that's awesome. What I see, runs like 22 miles an hour. He runs
fast.
Yeah, very fast, athletic, He asked me about what positions do we really need to shore up. Obviously, as we spoke before the program, we spoke ad nauseum, we need to shore up the defense. And the defense, I believe, can shore up faster than people believe. I mean, amazingly, we were a top 25 defense. I know everybody thinks we're the worst defense in football, but we were a top 25 defense in a lot of respects. I mean, the key thing for our team for next year is both offensive and defensive line. If you control the trenches, if you control the line of scrimmage, you don't need the best quarterback ever to play at Miami. Okay. Running backs are that much better when you have a line. I mean, when you have a line, how many of us have said, wow, I could have ran through that hole? And if you have a running back that can, and we've got good running backs, just starting off with Fletcher and Lyle. So if we have an offensive line and a defense line, that is the key. And hopefully that's what Mario will bring us with recruiting and the guys we have in place. And that's the key, because our defense, I think, starts with the line. For some reason, they did not perform up to expectations. The linebackers did not perform up to expectations. And that, of course, everything rolls downhill. And that meant the defensive secondary did not perform. That's the one position we thought the secondary at the beginning of the season was going to be our weak spot, right? But usually you can cover up a bad secondary or a less than perfect secondary if you have the linebackers and the defense line. We didn't have anything for a while. We couldn't, for example, against Syracuse, when they had to run the ball at the end of the game, I was excited about that. We'll stop them, but no, we couldn't even tackle them. So something has to happen. Obviously, I know Mario is loyal to a hilt. We're talking about players, but is he going to do anything with the coaching? I don't know. So the first thing that we need to build, in my opinion, is make sure that line in the offense and the defense, if you control the line of scrimmage, I mean, you've got 8 wins right there, I believe. Everybody is better on your team. I mean, there were so many games we didn't even have a pass rush. I mean, seemed like nobody would ever be able to throw against us, and then we just disappeared. So that's where I want to see it. What's your thoughts on that, Brett?
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, we just had the number one quarterback in the country, the number one offense in the country, and probably the best quarterback we'll ever see suit up in the orange and green in our lifetime in Cam Ward. And yet we still couldn't get to the minimum standards of what we wanted this season at getting to the ACC championship. So that just goes to show you I don't care what bells and whistles you get on the offensive side of the football. If you do land a John Mateer, that's going to be great. If you do land him with the CJ Daniels and an Eric Singleton and a Kevin Concepcion or Zachariah Branch, any of these guys you want to talk about getting, great. At the end of the day, it's the defense. I don't care. We got to shore up the defense. Unfortunately, I mean, the trenches as far as the defensive line, we're just extremely young, but we have a lot of bodies, whether it's D tackles or DNs, where we're in a position right now where we're probably going to have to just rely on the youth that we got and hope that these guys perform and are able to get developed the right way. I do see maybe someone like a Damon Payne from Alabama that just hit the portal recently, 6'4", 315 pounds. He's the guy that you may want to look at if you don't end up landing a guy like Keyshawn Silver from Kentucky who visited on Wednesday and Thursday. But, I mean, you got to get at least one defensive lineman to shore up the rest of that room, a guy that's a vet that's been in college football for about 3 or 4 years and needs one more year, in my opinion. But other than that, continue to get more guys in the secondary. I like Zachariah Poyser, who we just talked about from Jacksonville State. But we gotta continue to get some more other guys, whether it's Ethan O'Connor or another safety. We got to go after and continue to evaluate the right guys. And who knows what's happening behind the scenes. I mean, there could still be some changes made on the defensive side of the football from a coaching staff standpoint. So let's see what happens on that end. But at the end of the day, right now, it seems like the transfer portal, what's hot is the offensive side of the football. So we might as well talk about that. As much as we talked about Cam Ward this whole season, there was another quarterback out there in college football that from a stats number standpoint or in just the eye test when you turn on and watch some football this year, that really just pops off the screen. And he came from the same college that Cam Ward came from last year at Washington State. And that's none other than John Mateer, right? This guy had more total yards and more touchdowns than Cam Ward had this year. Just goes to show you the amount of what he's able to do for a program in a school like Washington State. This is a guy that had 15 touchdowns, I believe, on the ground, along with the 30-plus touchdowns in the air. So this is a guy that could get it done both in the air and on the ground. So that could definitely help out a football program that needs another set of legs in that running game. I don't know about you, man, but this would definitely be a big-time get. But as we know, people that have been following this recruitment, Oklahoma seems to be the favorite right now. He's currently on campus at Oklahoma. The reason why Oklahoma is the favorite, for people that aren't aware, is John Mateer's offensive coordinator and quarterback coach from Washington State are both now at Oklahoma. So there is a huge relationship piece there that is kind of involved. But let's see what happens. If he does not commit to Oklahoma in the next 24, 36 hours, and he does take a visit to Miami, I think that's a huge sign for us, saying that we definitely have a chance. And I think from a money standpoint, there's no question we can compete with Oklahoma. So,
you believe we can compete with Oklahoma financially?
Yeah.
All the oil, all the money over there. Well, we shall see. It'll be interesting because nowadays it is about money. But how much money are these kids looking for? I mean, I don't think the Canes can lay out as much as they did for Cam. I mean, I don't know it personally, but you can't a small school like this can't lay out all that money every year. And we saw the money with Martinez. We saw the money with Cam. And then we saw the top 20 teams. Miami wasn't even on the top 20 teams for how much money is in their NIL program. So That's an issue. And these schools, obviously, that have 50, 60,000 kids and, their athletic programs are much bigger. But I think, I think Mateer would be nice, obviously. It'd be awesome. And it'd get the fans excited. Mm-hmm. But if Mario had to go to a run-first team, I think it could be done if we have the offensive linemen. How many offensive linemen do we have coming back?
I believe everyone's coming back but two. I think it's Jalen Rivers and Zach Carpenter. So yet again, you got two starters, 2 out of your 5 starters leaving just like you did last year.
Well, we have other kids, and we know the offensive line. It's rare that a freshman or even a sophomore, a lot of times it's upperclassmen are the better players. Do we have anybody that came in last year that could fill those spots?
You got one. Obviously, Markel Bell, what he's been able to do this year, you would hope that he could definitely solidify that role that Jalen Rivers played. And then you got other guys like Matthew McCoy, that could definitely fill in one of those roles. And then Ryan Rodriguez being back, let's see what position he ends up playing. I think the staff is still trying to find a center and maybe another tackle in the portal. I think another guy to watch throughout fall and spring is probably going to be Bruno Tommy Kinsler, right here in the Ocala area. He's a guy that's been in the program for a year now, has the size and measurables that you would want to have at a starting guard or tackle. So he's another guy to watch out for. Let's see what happens with Pancake in the transfer portal if he decides to stay with the program. But you definitely still have some guys within the building that I think could definitely get it done. I'm not too worried about the offensive line. I'm more worried about that defensive line and hoping that these young guys could definitely perform and take that next step.
Now, who's coming back on the defensive line?
So, I mean, on the defensive line, you have pretty much every freshman and sophomore on the program. And then other than that, you have Ruben Bain, and then Akeem Mesidor may possibly come back in a mod mode. Other than that, it's all freshmen and sophomore. Malik Bryant, Dalen Russell, Justin Scott, Elias Rudolph, Booker Pickett, Cole McConaughey, Marquise Lightfoot, Artavius Jones, Josh Horton, Armando Blunt, and Ruben Bain. And then
Armando Blunt and Bryant were they both 5 stars, or were they both 5 stars? Or
no. Malik Bryant was a 4-star.
Well, okay, Malik, but
Armando Blunt was 4-star, I think.
Yeah, they had great credentials. These two guys, these guys could definitely fill in. I mean, Bryant was very active at the beginning of the season, a couple of sacks, making plays, but then he disappeared a little bit. Was he just not getting the playing time, or was just the whole defense just fell apart?
I think they were just rolling with some of the guys that they were continuously rotating. I mean, a guy like Tyler Barron, right? We had to wait till week 4, week 5 to realize that we couldn't put him in certain situations, and that's when you started to get a little bit of different rotation with him, throwing guys like Cole McConaughey or Malik Bryant and others in the mix. But I think, I mean, when you talk about all the guys that you put money in the transfer portal, I think they were trying to get the most out of them. I mean, someone like Simeon Barrow was a guy that rarely, took a snap off when he could. CJ Clark was another guy that played a lot of snaps. Elijah Alston when he was healthy. So I think they were just heavily invested with some of the guys that they had in the transfer portal, that they were trying to see if they could get the most out of the opportunity. But now this year coming up, you still got a lot of guys in that D-line room. You're probably only going to bring in 1 or 2 more guys. So it's time now for that D-line room, very similar to possibly the wide receiver position, where you're going to have to rely on some of these young guys to possibly be that guy. Someone like JoJo Trader or Nikar at the wide receiver position. If you only land 2 wide receivers in the portal, they're going to have to step up.
Exactly. I think what Gio said, Concepcion was someone they were looking at. Is that correct?
Yeah. So from a wide receiver perspective, I mean, we got a lot of targets, and a lot of these guys play multiple positions, right? You brought up Kevin Concepcion from NC State. He's a guy that when he first initially got in the portal, just like I felt last year, I thought Miami was probably the number 1 school to get him. And then once kind of the schools came out as far as his visit lineup and timeline, where Miami was almost not in the mix or kind of late at the end of that party, we kind of saw very quickly with the transfer portal where it's, these things happen very quickly. And it's kind of the opposite of high school recruiting, where maybe the last visit isn't always the best, because it seems like a lot of these guys, once they get on campus, they might just, sign the dotted line and say, hey, this is where I want to be. And then they cancel the rest of their visits.
True.
But the fact that Kevin Concepcion took all these other visits to other big time programs, right? And then he's at Colorado currently today. As long as he leaves Colorado uncommitted, just like John Matera, Oklahoma, and he takes that visit to Miami tomorrow, which he's set to do, I think Miami's in a very good shot for Kevin Concepcion. And he's a guy that not only answers your slot, he also answers your kickoff and punt return, and he's a guy that can play in the backfield too, right? Very similar to Brashard Smith. So I know running back is another position where we may need to get another running back. Who's to say maybe you get Kevin Concepcion, and between him and Elijah Lofton at times, those 2 guys together maybe take over that other running back carry that you would have got out of the transfer portal, and allows you to still get an Eric Rivers from FIU or an Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech, who obviously is going to be commanding a lot of money in the portal. And he just visited Miami as well the last couple of days with Keyshawn Silver. And he's probably the number one target in the transfer portal from a athlete and wide receiver position. And then you got guys like Zachariah Branch, who just announced a couple hours ago from USC. He's going to be a hot commodity all around college football. So you got someone like him that Miami may want to look at, along with his brother that plays that slot position on defense. And then Malachi Fields from Virginia. He's one of the top ACC wide receivers in our conference. And he plays very well. And he's a guy that could play at the outside as well if you don't land a guy like CJ Daniels, who just visited as well. But I think that is a name to probably circle right now as Hurricane fans, is CJ Daniels, who was recently at Liberty, transferred to LSU, back in the portal. I think he's going to be making the decision very soon. And I think Miami's in a good spot.
So the transfer portal is open till when?
So the transfer portal is open till the 28th, but there is an exception. So the exception is any player that is playing in a bowl game or in the playoffs, you have 5 days from when your game ends to then hit the portal. So if you play for Georgia or Oregon, right, some of these other big time programs, they don't necessarily have to publicly announce that they're in the transfer portal. They could wait until the bowl game is over, and then they still have a 5-day window to actually announce.
Yeah, but that's the strange thing. The Penn State backup quarterback, obviously there's a lot of uproar about that he thought that he had to go ahead and transfer now before the game, even though the game is going to happen. Because those windows close, those doors close. So you got to decide, I could play with my team if we win, and then I may not get the job I want. Is that kid, can he be a starter somewhere?
Who?
The kid that's leaving Penn State, the backup quarterback. He's leaving before the game.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't pay attention to that, unfortunately.
Yeah, so he's leaving. So there's a lot of flack right now about the whole system because he's not going to play in the playoffs. He's going to leave, even though he has the 5-day grace period, but he wants to get a job somewhere else.
I mean, some of these guys, it's a market value, right? You got to strike when the iron's hot, especially if they see other players at the same position groups, what money they're probably getting offered. They're going to at least wager that option. I mean, you look at the quarterback from Tulane, he had the opportunity to play against Florida in his bowl game, Darion Mensah, and he decided to go in the portal and then obviously committed to Duke. So, I mean, that's another prime example right there where have the opportunity to, be a part of your Tulane program and possibly beat a Florida team in your bowl game, decides to hit the portal and probably benefit from that because now he's going to get paid a lot more at Duke, I'm sure.
So Duke has filled their quarterback slot. Florida State got the transfer, right, from Boston College?
Yep.
He's the kid that quit on them, didn't he? Is that the kid? So Florida
State.
Yep. So which is, I think the NFL does it pretty well. They investigate these kids. They look at everything about them. I mean, if that happened, the NFL would probably look at it like, hey, wait a second, you quit on your team? So, and it's difficult enough to be in the NFL. But in major college, it's the same. So if he quit on them, why isn't he going to do it again? I mean, how many times can you do that?
I mean, there's some of these guys I've been seeing the transfer portal added. Some of these guys have moved to 4 or 5 different programs.
Yeah, so you bounce around. We had the basketball player a few years ago. We went to the final. And you move around. When it's your guy, you like it when you're getting him, and it's the last place he is. Position the Hurricanes always dominated. Okay, probably one of our best positions on the field was linebacker, way back from Ted Hendricks days. I mean, you had Dan Morgan. You obviously had the Bermuda Triangle with Smith and Barrow and Marley, and then you had obviously the great team from the early 2000s. So we've had Sean Spence after that. Who do we have at linebacker? Because linebacker, I know we had Kiko, who unfortunately disappeared sometime during the season. I think he was injured because you don't turn him to be that solid at the beginning of the season, or they put him in the wrong positions. So something like that. And that would be on Guidry. If we're not putting kids in the best position to succeed, then that's a problem. Because for years, we know we weren't good, which has been a long time. We try to have players play our system instead of what they could do. So tell me a little bit about the linebacker position, who we have coming in and who we have.
Yeah, so as far as as far as leaving the program, Kiko Mano, who you just mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
I believe he's the only senior in the building, and I think the other one is Chase Smith. If he can come back, I think he would need a waiver if he even does have the opportunity. He's the only other guy. Other than that, everyone else on the team is coming back. You got Popo Aguero,
Mm-hmm.
who you just mentioned, Jalen Alderman, the transfer we got from Louisville, who played a lot, especially in the past. Wesley Basaint, who's probably going to be your number one linebacker on the team next year. I expect him to play a lot more Mike, middle linebacker, and kind of use some of these other guys that can run sideline to sideline and get them on the field a little bit more. Maybe someone like Cameron Pruitt, who I expect to play a lot more. You also got Aldarius Hayes as well. And then other than that, you got Bobby Washington, who decided to come back, who I think is going to be playing a lot more of a pivotal role, hopefully, as long as he's healthy. There was, I think, a post that he had, I think, a couple of days ago of him in the hospital. So hopefully everything's okay with him. We'll see if that injury is something long-term that'll affect him in the fall or spring. And then you got your two freshmen, Kellen Wiley and Ezekiel Marcelin. I think Kellen Wiley is going to have the opportunity to possibly play early as well. He's 6'4", 220 pounds, and he's a monster from Armwood. So I like those two guys that we're bringing in too.
Well, that's great because we need, you look at these teams that are excellent and they've got great linebackers. The linebackers in coverage Kiko did what he could, but they put him in coverage a lot, it seemed, right? I mean, there was just a lot of things that I'd say, why is he covering this guy? I mean, the fans got to be asking that question. So if we can get a good linebacker crew, if we can get a couple of studs that are all over the place, and you see them. You didn't see that this year at all. You saw Kiko, but you didn't see a lot of the other guys. I don't know if, again, was it Guidry? Was it the players? Was it the system that just didn't fit for them? That's the big problem. And I'm concerned about the Guidry thing because Mario is a very loyal person. Now, there's two ways of Mario. There's the loyal Mario, because remember, he couldn't decide if he's going to leave Oregon. He didn't want to leave them. He was very loyal, and everything else, who he lets go. He doesn't want to let guys go until they find another job sometimes, it seems. And then there's also the indecisive Mario, which we see on the games. So do you believe this is more loyal Mario or indecisive Mario?
I think this is more indecisive Mario. Unfortunately, I think there is some stuff going on behind the scenes that maybe he's doing some interviews or some things where he's bringing on some other coaches on campus to get a feel of some other things. Who knows if we make the head change at DC or if we just make position coach changes, whether that's in the secondary or whatnot. But I mean, the most glaring thing was our secondary, right? And that's something like Lance Guidry also coaches. Even though he's the DC, he's also the safeties coach. So it's not just Chevis Jackson, it's also Lance Guidry. Is it that Lance Guidry is got too much time invested in trying to coordinate and help the whole defense to where he can't really put more emphasis on the safety position, and that's putting more pressure on a guy like Chevis Jackson to coach everybody? If that's the case, you need to bring in another safeties coach, right, to allow Lance Guidry to just be a DC. If not, then we need to maybe just bring in someone entirely new that has the ability to do multiple things, that's maybe a little more seasoned and proven at a bigger program. But at the end of the day, I think changes do need to be made. It is interesting that a guy like Zachariah Poyser ended up committing because he is on the defensive side of the ball, and we don't know what's going to happen from a staff standpoint on defense. But like I mentioned before, this was a kid that all he needed was to just arrive at campus, and he was going to commit regardless. He's a diehard Miami Hurricane growing up, always wanted to be a Hurricane. So this was kind of very similar to, one of those in-state or inner-city guys from Miami that you would recruit from a high school level that all he needed was that offer and he would be a Cane no matter what. This was the same thing that kind of happened from a transfer portal view. So we got pretty lucky there because he is a great talent and a lot of SEC programs definitely wanted him. But moving forward, we see a lot of corners and safeties commit to other programs. I mean, Virginia Tech lost like 4 guys, and 2 out of 4 of those guys have already committed to other places. And there's some big time names that are starting to go to other places, and yet Miami hasn't been involved. Is it Miami is involved and they're just kind of being handcuffed right now because they don't know what they're going to do from a coaching standpoint, or do these corners just truly not believe in what's being coached at Miami right now? It's hard to say, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to make something shake, because as good as this John Mateer and Eric Singleton and all these guys in the offense may be, your defense is what's really going to help us carry us to that next level, because like we just saw this year, the defense is what will hurt us.
Absolutely. So, yeah, and that's it. I mean, you really, we were upset with Manny when he didn't make those decisions. We were upset with so many other coaches. And now Mario, it seems like, drags his legs. So I don't know. I think, he's way too loyal, which is great. But in certain times with people getting jobs, but at the same time, we see the indecisiveness, like you say, in the games. So we're probably going to see it now. So we've got some linebackers, the secondary. Who do we have coming back? Did you mention that already?
As far as what, the secondary? Before I get to that, let me just Jorge Blanco asked a couple questions. Brad, is Martinez coming back? There's nothing publicly announced about Damian Martinez coming back. He hasn't officially announced. If I had to guess, he's probably leaving. Running back position is one of those commodities where your window is very small, especially at the next level at the NFL. This is a guy that's already ran for almost 3,000 yards in 3 years and was the number one back at every program he's been at. I don't think he has anything left to prove. In my opinion, I think it's best that he probably takes his talents to the NFL, gets that second, third round grade, and does what he can do for about 5-6 years in the NFL, because we know how that span is for running backs in the NFL. So I would say Damian Martinez is probably most likely going to leave, but nothing official yet. Duke definitely upgraded their quarterback with Darian Mensah, like we mentioned before. Are we done with Guidry? As of right now, no. He's the DC right now. He's the safeties coach. So until something official happens, he is our guy right now. So we're going to have to deal with that and move forward. Rodriguez can play center. Yes, he can. We need to be done with Guidry, Randy Owens says. Brett, your thoughts on defense as a whole before I break down the secondary?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, my thoughts on defense as a whole, I just think they were out of position. I mean, we noticed that early on. I forget, was it the Virginia Tech game? I don't know what game it was, but all of a sudden it was like, wait a second, what's missing here? We were completely out of position, and that was scary. I think it was the Tech. It's like, how are they getting all these big plays? And like we went from a team that could tackle really well, it seemed like, against the Gators in the first few games, just like we did last year when we played Texas A&M, and then we just became a different team. Something snapped and it went wrong. Our offense stayed in gear, but our defense just fell apart. I don't know. But it seemed like we could not – the angles were terrible. It seemed like everybody was getting juked out. These are kids that have played football all their lives. That's not coaching. But as soon as the guy caught the ball in the flat, he was gone. If he made one cut. Now, can the coaches teach that? That's the question. Is it on the coaches? Is it on the players? Is it on both? But you have a great offense like that. It's not like you're saying – I could see some players saying, you know what, our offense sucks. We're terrible. We're not going to score anyway, so I can't give my all. But the offense was playing lights out. That being said, the defense, they get the ball back for the team sometimes, and the offense doesn't score. But obviously, this was an offense-oriented team. Too bad. Defense would have came up big in one of those games. We obviously would be we would have been the ACC championship game. Before we talk about that, Brad, let me just tell a few things that are going on CanesWear, okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
We've got the Xavier Restrepo toy drive going on right now. If you bring in an unused toy, a new and unwrapped toy to CanesWear, you'll get 10% off your total purchase, even if the item is on sale. So bring that in, support Xavier's mission for the SOS Children's, and it's a foster care for children 2 to 17. Besides that, we've got a ton of daily deals going on where you save 30 to 80%. A lot of those, check them out, the daily deals, some really good items, okay? We got the new reversible starter jackets for the Canes and the Dolphins, which is solid. We've got tons of other cool things, but those reversible starter jackets are the nicest starter jackets I've ever seen. They've got Sebastian, they got the U on the back, Sebastian on the arm, and it's got Hurricanes or Canes in the front. The Dolphin one has the old throwback logo on the back and on the patch on the shoulder as well, and those are awesome. So there's lots of choice in those. Those do not go bad. Basically getting 2 jackets in one for $175. We've got we've just put the gray sneakers on the daily deal. It's $89.83 for those. I know some people paid $129. But we've gone ahead and just put those on as a daily deal yesterday, which is really cool for $89. Those are super comfortable. They look great, and that's a great pair of kicks right there. Lots of other things. We got the number 24 jersey on sale on a big promo. That's the tonal one. That's a solid item. It's regularly $149. We've got it for $77. It's really sharp. I like that one a lot. And there's a matching hat there as well. We've got the Popcorn Bowl t-shirts. I know everybody's excited about the Popcorn Bowl. People say, why'd we go to the Popcorn Bowl? There's 6 million reasons, $6 million. I'm pretty sure, Brad, that was the number one bowl game. We just
Popcorn or Pop-Tart?
Pop-Tart.
Popcorn or Pop-Tart?
Thank you for that. We got lots of Panther stuff in, tons of Panther stuff. The Cats are the only team in town that has won a championship since who's the last team to win before that? The Heat. Yep. And the local team. So a lot of good things. We've got a lot of cool Dolphin stuff. And Inter Miami right now is 40 to 50% off your Messi jerseys and everything like that. So a lot of excitement at CanesWear. Come on in, bring a toy, get 10% off your total purchase. Look for our daily deals. We're going to be increasing them. We're very pumped. We're going to do some really good specials. We're going to pick somebody today for a $25 gift card. The team of Brett and Brad will pick that out. So that's where we are, Brad, on the store. We're really excited. It's 7 days till Christmas, I think, right? We got Christmas coming up, Hanukkah coming up, Festivus, Kwanzaa. We got it all coming up. And we're excited for everybody to come to the store, buy online. If you buy by tomorrow, I think you can possibly still get it in Christmas without going ahead and getting express delivery. And that's what I got. Brad, so we got the secondary, right?
Yes.
It's been a while since we've had a Sean Taylor and Ed Reed. Who was our last great safety?
Cam Kitchens.
Cam Kitchens, exactly. I'm sorry.
Cam Kitchens.
Lit it up in the NFL too, and he could have came back this year, right? Him and James could have came back this year.
Could have. He definitely could have.
Can you imagine that? So it's but Cam Kitchens, exactly, and he was awesome. And outside of that, and he played a good year in the NFL. He was Player of the Week, I think, a couple of times. So for rookies, so we need another guy like that. We thought we had that possibly in number 0.
Speaking of awesome, we got an awesome guest with us that just got here with us. We got our guy Gio Melion, who does amazing work. Gio, what's going on, brother?
Good. I was just wrapping up with Amon. We had like hundreds of people asking questions and everything. I was trying to like riff through all of it, but I'm here now.
All right, Gio. Welcome to the bunch. Thanks for joining us.
Of course.
So we've been talking about the portal. Sorry, Brad. Go.
No, go ahead, Brett.
You go. We're talking about the portal, obviously, talking about, that's the big thing in everybody's mind. Who we getting, who's leaving, who's coming back. Brad and I have been covering all that. And you and Brad are obviously the experts in that. So I'm glad to have you on board so you can go back and forth. Only place you're going to see that in town is the CanesWear Podcast.
Of course. Go ahead, Brad. Shoot. What's up?
Yeah. So, Gio, as you know, the hottest name right now in the transfer portal from a Miami Hurricanes standpoint is obviously quarterback Washington State John Mateer. As people that know that have been following the recruiting process with this transfer portal target, Oklahoma seems to be the early favorite because of the OC and quarterback coach, the relationship they have with John Mateer over at Washington State. They are now over at Oklahoma. It seemed like a sure thing, very done deal. If I'm not mistaken, Gio, I believe he's currently on campus at Oklahoma. Do you have any updates or new information for Hurricane fans that are watching about possibly the timeline of all this? Is this more of a Cam Ward situation like last season where the longer this plays out, the better it is for Miami? Or has this always just been Oklahoma and kind of just all these other schools like Miami and others are kind of just out for show?
I think it's going to be a very quick cut and dry process with Mateer. With Cam, it was more so the NFL was on the table for him as well. With Mateer, the general consensus is that he wants to come back like for certain, at least one more year minimum to college. He has a lot to gain by coming back one more season as well. What I can say about the Oklahoma situation, the tune is very much changed on their side of things where, it was a few weeks ago, it was almost like certainty. Like they were 100% certain, like, yeah, we're getting John Mateer. Like it's a done deal. And that tune has changed a lot since he has entered the transfer portal because now it's publicly known that Miami is interested and Miami is very much going to come with an aggressive approach. I think just the situation you have to watch is, does John Mateer leave Oklahoma uncommitted. If he commits whatever, it's basically over. Like the kid, I was speaking about it with Amon before I got in here, but I'll say the same thing. The words that I put it in. Does he go with logic, or does he go with familiarity and those type of feelings of like comfort and whatnot? And like every situation is different. We've seen this with the transfer portal, and we've seen this with high school recruiting. Some guys will go with the logic, the logical decision. Some guys will go just based off relationships. It really all varies. I will say though, Miami's ready to go in all aggressive. Like they have a very handsome NIL compensation package on hand and ready to get into this battle. They've been waiting for this. They've been anticipating that he was going to enter the transfer portal. And even through the proper channels as well, there's been conversations with Cam Ward throughout the year, him and John Mateer. John Mateer was Cam's backup when Cam was at Washington State. So I think it all hinges on what comes out of that Oklahoma visit. Oklahoma's side of things, they're saying that, they expect him to announce tomorrow. Mm-hmm. We'll see what happens, because they were expecting John Mateer in Norman earlier today, and he wasn't there yet. He didn't arrive until the evening, from what I understand.
Well, another position that obviously relies on the quarterback position, and we're still uncertain if Emory Williams will indeed be that guy next season, but it's the wide receiver position, and Miami has not been afraid of bringing in a lot of wide receiver targets on campus in the last week or so since the transfer portal's been out. Before we even get to some of these targets, Gio, we already knew going into next season after this Pop-Tart Bowl that you were going to be without, 3 of your 4 wide receivers and your tight end, and Elijah Arroyo, Xavier Restrepo, Jacoby George, and most likely Sam Brown once the season's over, right? And we're going into next season with, hey, at least we had one guy in Isaiah Horton that stayed within the program. We've seen him develop. At least we could, kind of use that as not only a recruiting tool and asset, but kind of just feel relieved that at least we're bringing someone back to go along with a lot of these incoming freshmen or sophomores that have yet really been able to prove themselves. But hey, in the last 48 hours, we did lose Isaiah Horton. So before we get to the possible additions, talk about another subtraction in that wide receiver room and Isaiah Horton and kind of what you know about that situation.
Yeah, so obviously it's a bit significant because he was that pseudo number 3 this year for Miami. I know they tried to fit Sam Brown in there at certain points. The reality is that things didn't mesh very well with Sam Brown from an on-field aspect to off-field. I've shared with people multiple times, even during the season, that I did not expect Sam Brown to be back with Miami next year, and I'll stand on that again. I don't expect Sam Brown to be back with Miami. Whether that's the NFL or if he tests his hand in the transfer portal, I just don't expect him back. But in terms of Isaiah Horton, though, so 2 programs of interest there between Alabama and Tennessee, both very much willing to compensate him. From what I've overheard, nothing crazy that him and his family are looking for or whatnot. It's just reasonable that he's coming into a situation where he could potentially be a number 1 or a number 2 next year. And he had real production this year, and he made some plays. He kind of tapered off towards the end of the season, not as productive as he was like during the first 8 to 9 games. But he has not officially entered the transfer portal yet. He's only turned in his paperwork. He has not officially hopped into there. So the way that works is those teams can't speak to him directly. He's still having conversations with Miami, its coaches, and their NIL representatives. So that situation is still being worked through. What I can say from having a conversation with someone this morning sounded much more optimistic about the chances that Isaiah Horton comes back to Miami.
That's good news.
How do you think that affects getting a guy like Mateer? I mean, when knowing that we have if you say, I'm going to come to your school, you have no receivers, great. Not that we have no receivers, but no proven receivers. And I know we're talking about getting some of these guys that you guys have spoke about, which I'm sure they will, because we've been always got accounts for poor receivers, some better than others. I mean, hopefully we'll pick up a Rambo. or something like that, with that kind of year. But does that help us at all? Do you think having a Horton, not that he's a solid number one, but he could turn into a number one, does that help us in the material, the hunt for material?
I think not so much. I will say, though, and I've shared this before, in terms of the receivers that Miami is going after in the transfer portal, some people have had the concern. They're like, oh, well, what's going to happen with the quarterback situation? Some of these receivers, they have bought into the proof of concept that Coach Shannon Dawson has shown with his offensive system dating back to Houston, even with Miami, even with the struggles with Tyler Van Dyke, even when they had to throw Emory Williams into the fire, and then the great fireworks show this year of Cam Ward being a Heisman finalist. The proven concept is that the wide receivers always produce and put up great numbers in Shannon Dawson's offense. And he has that proof of concept now that from multiple stops to show these guys like, hey, like no matter who the quarterback is, you're going to produce here. You put in the work, you're going to be a guy here. You're going to make a difference. So that has gone into play with some of these receivers they're going after. Obviously, some guys have asked questions about like, okay, who's going to be the quarterback? And Miami's kind of given them a general idea. Like, look, like they've said what it is. One thing I feel that I forgot to say, though, in terms of quarterbacks, yes, Fernando Mendoza is kind of an option. I wouldn't say he's like a true legitimate option. He's someone that potentially could be on the table. But Miami's monitoring a couple situations, even in the college football playoff.
Yeah, I was saying the kid from Penn State left early, but a lot of those guys are probably waiting to see their games, and then they've got the 5-day period, which Brad mentioned, the 5-day extra period.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So Emory Williams has a chance to prove himself a little bit in the bowl game to have people see him, but that's the 28th. And when is the portal deadline?
So it really, all right. If you were a team that made it to a bowl game or you didn't made it to a bowl game, you have to be in there before the 28th.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't even really enter your papers in on the 28th. Like you got to make sure that you're entering it in before, because it takes a little bit of time to process as well. Sometimes it could take up to like a whole 48-hour process for that name to even end up in the transfer portal. The other thing, so with the playoff guys, obviously you get that 5-day grace period from your last game played. It really all boils down to enrollment dates, when guys have to arrive on campus. From my understanding, the absolute last day that it could work for Miami, from what I recall, I believe it's the January 14th or 15th. And the guys that are early enrolling from Miami's high school recruiting class, they're all arriving. The last time I talked to them, it's the 7th or the 8th of January that they'll all be moving in.
Oh, that's good. So there's plenty of time.
Only a few weeks away.
Yeah, it's a few weeks away.
Plenty of time. It's right around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot better than the 28th or the 1st or the 4th. So you're saying Horton could be in play. So you think this is possibly that he was looking for more money, which is understandable if he was. Yeah. You only have how many opportunities to make it?
He had a productive season, and it's from what I've overheard is that likely that next year would be his last year in college. He's going into next season will technically be 4 years that he's been in college. Some guys don't want to do that extra 5th year. Like, for example, Jalen Rivers technically still had 1 more year. He told me before the season even started, he's like, yeah, like this is going to be my last year. I've already felt like I've done everything I've wanted to do at Miami coming into this year. This will be my last year. I'll do what I can and help this team to the best of my ability, but this will be my last year. And look, you got to respect it. Some guys, they don't want to be around in college for 5, 6, 7 years. Yeah. Some guys do.
Mm-hmm. So what Brad mentioned, those receivers, we talked about a little bit of Concepcion, Eric Rivers, CJ Daniels, right? Some of the big names that you talked about, Eric Singleton. I mean, what is your feeling on those guys?
I think Miami's in a good spot with CJ Daniels from LSU. I know some people are a little soured on the factor that his production wasn't exactly the same with the Tigers last year. me and Amon were just talking about it. Like, you could even watch the game tape from when he was playing with LSU this season. Was dealing with a heel injury throughout the year. You could see him kind of limping off the field most of the time. Wasn't exactly the same. Even Amon shared himself. He's like, hey, like my sophomore year when I had an injury going on, yeah, I had some games where I did well, but I didn't feel like I was 100%. It kind of held me back from what I was truly capable of doing. And I get that. And the sense I get from at least Miami's side of things, they're really high on him. They definitely looked through the situation of the injury he had and is he going to be okay here? Because Miami's taken a whole approach to the transfer portal that they're very cautious of taking any guys that are coming off of injuries. Like they're very thorough with their process, that they don't want to, because it's an investment really at the end of the day. You want to make sure that the money that you're putting towards that certain player is going to be well worth it. So good spot with CJ Daniels. I like where they're at with Eric Rivers as well. Eric Singleton, I think it's Auburn for him. I know Miami's extremely high on him. He's pretty much like the top guy on the board. Could play either in the slot or some Z receiver as well. Likelihood is that he is heading to Auburn. Miami would absolutely love to have him, though, just for the positional versatility, just multiple positions that he could play. Concepcion's an interesting one because a lot of buzz of Alabama before he even started taking his visits. He's already visited Tuscaloosa. I know he's seeing Colorado, a couple other programs and whatnot. South Carolina in the mix there, Texas A&M. I think Miami could make it interesting if the visit goes very well. I'll be honest, I've overheard rumors for about a year now that Miami would love to get him. But again, you have to see how that visit plays out. And I think an interesting name, even in the portal now, me and Amon were talking about this too with Zachariah Branch from USC, that now that's another big piece that has entered the transfer portal. Some interest there from Miami, some schools like Florida, Texas, a whole bunch of different programs, Georgia, your usual suspects basically that are portal shopping. And with him, the factor is how much is he really going to want in NIL compensation? Because yes, USC didn't use Branch very well in Southern California with Lincoln Riley. And I think that whole thing's a mess in USC. All the local kids are not even staying there. But with Branch, it boils down to, how much does he want compared to the production he's had? Very talented kid, but is that guy worth a 7-figure NIL deal? Is he truly worth that? Very talented, but production's not the same as some of these other guys Miami's looking at.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to imagine many receivers are worth seven figures.
Yeah, I think maybe the only one that truly is worth that is a guy like Eric Singleton, and that's what he's commanding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, hey, another guy that is bringing some production that just joined the Miami Hurricane program as far as from a commitment aspect was Zachariah Poyser from Jackson State, 6'2", 190, great guy with a huge football instincts. That first step and kind of just the way he utilizes his body and bursts and tackling in the space. I thought it was a very good evaluation and good pickup for Miami. We've been talking about all these offensive targets and what they could do for Miami next season. But as we saw, we got the best of the best in last cycle's portal with Cam Ward, Damian Martinez, and others, and yet we still couldn't even get to the ACC championship. So it's kind of a conclusion that the defensive side of the ball is really where we need to put some emphasis in the portal. Besides Poyser, who just committed to Miami today, Gio, is there anybody on the defensive side of the ball that Miami needs to start looking at and kind of circling maybe a date or some guys that maybe haven't even popped up on the scene yet that Miami could be looking at?
Yeah, so Miami's looking at you mentioned Poyser, who they landed today, which is phenomenal get for them. Position of need as well. Size, speed, physical. Some fans even said they're like, oh, he plays at the FCS level. That's not true. Plays in the FBS. His team just won the Conference USA championship as well. Excuse me. And some just saying like, oh, well, Miami didn't recruit him out of high school. This is the reality now in the transfer portal. There's guys moving down levels and there's guys moving up, because the reality is, no matter what anyone wants to say about the recruiting industry, I used to work in it years ago for Rivals with Yahoo. It's not a perfect system. There's so many guys that fall through the cracks, that whether they were the 3-star or unranked. Look at Cam Ward this year. Unranked. No one knew he was going to be what he became about 4 or 5 years ago. No one had a single idea. So you can't predict these things. Sometimes these guys get into a college strength and conditioning program and they just explode. So some veteran guys at safety like Caleb Wooden from Auburn is a name to know that they have some interest in. UAB guy and Adrian Maddox as well. Very productive kid himself. Those are 2 guys with 1 year of eligibility at safety that Miami's looking at there. And actually, you know what? Let me pull up my little notes here to the side, because I feel like I forgot one name. Yeah, one more name I want to bring up there. It's another younger safety that they have some interested in as well, and Adrian Wilson from Washington State, multiple years of eligibility remaining. I believe he has like 2 or 3 remaining. So the theme and the concept that Miami's been going after when it comes to defensive backs, they want guys with multiple years and production. And this is what you see, what they're doing. Like Poyser, super productive this year for Jacksonville State. He was all-conference guy, one of the best freshman safeties in the country, 70 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 8 passes defended, 2 fumble recoveries, 3 interceptions. I don't know. I could continue naming off the stats. Very productive.
Amazing.
That's the theme. They want guys multiple years, 2-3 years, and then potentially sprinkle in maybe 1 or 2 guys that are veterans, because Miami doesn't want to be back in this scenario next year where, all right, well, we got to take another 3 or 4 defensive backs, and they all only have 1 year, and then we're kind of screwed. I go back to this 2023 recruiting class. I think this is what unfortunately happened to Miami. Cormani McClain leaves Miami at the altar on signing day. Ends up going with Dion to Colorado, now transferred to Florida. Or Antoine Jackson signed with Miami, asked out of his NLI within a week's time. Went to ECU, now at UCF, went in the portal. I think I heard he's going to stay with UCF now or something. And Robert Stafford, who just left the program. So your only cornerback that you had in that 2023 class that has made it all these years is Damari Brown, who missed basically the entire season out of like 2 quarters that he played in the season. So you got basically no cornerbacks from that class at all. And then your 2024 guys from Mario's second class, OJ Frederic, who is, we all know, very phenomenal this year. Freshman All-American. He'll continue to get better. Ryan Mack, he was hurt this year. Didn't really play. Took a red shirt. Those recruiting classes have been very, it's unfortunate the way things have shaken out, but this is why this is Miami's approach to the portal with defensive back. Multi-year guys, production can help us right now and can help us long-term.
Love it.
Did either one of you think we were going to sign him? Was that already planned, or was that something that was a surprise? I mean, and
with Poyser?
Yes.
Yeah, I knew as of this morning that Miami was.
Did you know a week ago that we were going to get him?
No.
So that was a surprise.
That's how quick things move.
Yeah. So that's so we don't know. Everybody's in play, basically. I mean,
yeah. So some of those cornerbacks, like for example, they've had 2 recently visit. That's Ethan O'Connor from Washington State, who they're extremely high on him. They think he could play right away. And you also have Emmanuel Carnley from Arizona, who a little more viewed as a guy that you might have to stash for a year, may play a little bit.
I didn't really like that one.
A little more. But both of those guys, 3 years of eligibility. They've played quite a bit of college football already as it is. There's some veteran options. Charles Brantley from Michigan State. There's been some contact there. Only hiccup is from Michigan State to Miami. Sometimes there's a little bit of a credit transferring issue. So even if he wanted to go to Miami, he may have to wait until like fall ball to go to Coral Gables if he chose to come here.
Yeah. Well, Gio, before we get you out of here and you plug your amazing work and we pick out a winner in the comments for the $25 gift card, we got a question from Jorge. Gio, if Guidry goes, who would you like as a potential DC?
Whew.
Talk about a big-time question right there.
That's a home run.
I know there were some rumors going around of guys like Muschamp or other names that possibly were on campus or talking to staff. Who knows if that's true or not? But I mean, between Muschamp or a guy like Coach Stoops, I know those are two popular names out there.
Yeah, well, you have the new model now in college football where head coaches are stepping down at smaller programs and then taking a coordinator job at a bigger program. So, yeah, I think that's very unique. Maybe one outside the box. I know some Cane fans are not the biggest fans of him, but I thought he was a really good defensive coordinator. Greg Schiano. I think that guy
is amazing.
I think he could really coach defense or one more. Let's go with one more outside the box. How about Dave Aranda and Baylor? There's been some issues that have kind of been happening there, and some questions if he may still stay the head coach after this year.
I'd heard what was the Florida coach's name? The defensive guy got fired a couple of years ago.
Muschamp.
Muschamp, but not they were the head coach.
Oh, Dan Mullen.
Yes.
He's at UNLV head coach.
He is, okay, because I heard some of his name. So it's
Vegas now. Go offense.
So I was asking Brad if he thought that it was this is Mario has so much loyalty and he wants to make sure these guys find jobs or something. You think it's that, or Mario's indecisiveness like he is during a game where he doesn't know what to do? Kick a field goal, punt, call timeout, all three at the same time.
I can share this from what I know. I don't think we see any potential staff changes until after the bowl game.
What's the advantage of that?
That I can't even answer.
I mean, what is the advantage of? Is he going to let a guy finish the season? I mean, does he think that Guidry? Obviously, the defense was better last year, but they were still far from. They still couldn't tackle last year. They made similar mistakes with different.
I will share this because sometimes some fans say they're like, "Oh yeah, he's for sure gone" or whatever. The reality is, I'll say this right now: there is absolutely no one that knows if the defensive coordinator will be returning or not, aside from Mario Cristobal and the Miami administration. Those are the only people that know right now.
How much does he get paid? Do we know?
They don't always disclose that because it's a private school. From what I had overheard in the past, 7-figure.
Okay, so he's making a chunk of money, and he's never really proven himself anywhere, right?
Yeah, he had successful defenses with Marshall and whatnot.
Yeah, Marshall's defense was excellent. That's right. They were a top defense, and he was going to go to Tulane, wasn't he? We're going to go to Tulane, yeah. And then he came to us. Gio, do you feel? Won't keep you too much longer, but do you feel that there's any other surprises that we may be looking at, just like we got the surprise today? I know I harped on Jeremiah Smith. If Ohio State loses in the first round and he gets fired, because they won't take, they'll fire their coach if we lose in the first round. I doubt they'll lose in the first round day. But do you think there's any chance that a guy like that would want to come home?
Yeah, I think it's just a lot of hypotheticals in play there. If Brian Day gets fired, then if Brian Hartline doesn't get retained, then yeah, I could definitely see Jeremiah Smith thinking to himself, I came here for Brian Hartline and whatever the scenario is there. But yeah, I could definitely see a guy like that hit the portal. I just think there's just so much hypothetical there that it's more so the approach of we'll get there when we get there, if we get there.
Exactly. I mean, that's a game-changing guy that would probably command everything.
Oh yeah, he would
get paid whatever he wants. If he was in Alabama, it'd be awfully scary if he's on the other side of that other kid.
Him and Ryan Williams. Oh man,
that would be beastly. So crazy. You think Cam's going to play in the game?
Yeah, I think he'll follow through with his word. I feel that Cam has very much been a man of his word. He's done everything that he said that he would for Miami, and I think he's more than delivered on it. To be honest.
He definitely has. And I saw something today that showed that he was the 14th ranked player in the transfer portal last year and 4th quarterback. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, because the transfer portal rankings are a little tricky because what happens is some of the younger guys who may have been like highly rated out of high school, they kind of highly value them more because of how the recruiting sites rank them. And like, let's say you're a freshman and you transferred out of a program, they still rank them highly. But then if you're a highly ranked player, like 3 years ago, and you really haven't done anything, your transfer portal ranking in comparison to your high school ranking is like day and night.
Dante Moore was a perfect example of that this past transfer portal, where he was absurdly highly rated in the transfer portal rankings, but obviously hasn't done much on a college playing field, right? Before we get you out of here, Gio, my question to you is, Brett just asked you about, what's your thoughts on Cam Ward playing the game. What I want to ask you is this. Do you think as for the Miami program moving forward, is it more important to get the 11th win this season and having Cam Ward as your quarterback do that? Or is it more important to see the possible future of the program for next year and have Emory Williams starting and playing most of that game in the bowl game?
Oh, man. Well, if they I feel like Cam deserves to have a great send-off. I hope Hurricane fans show up and show out, because the guy put on an incredible, like, just everything that he has done. To me, it's like, I think he's revived the program and to a certain extent where it's a national brand now that everyone is watching Miami, whether they want Miami to lose or you're a fan or whatever the case may be. I feel that Miami's more back on the map now. And obviously you hope that it can be sustained. We'll see going forward. But I think they deserve, like, I think he deserves to have a great send-off. So if they can get up like a big lead or something, like let's say, they get up really big between the second and third corner, then yeah, you could put in Emory or whatnot. But I think out of anything, he deserves it, because just the way the season ended, and I still don't agree that you take it out of his hands or whatever. Everyone will always think of that forever. It's unfortunate, but I think he deserves a phenomenal send-off for everything that he's done. I mean, Miami hasn't had a Heisman finalist in over 22 years. 22 years. The second time winning only 10 games in the last 20-something years. Like,
and 11 is 21 years ago. But I agree. I did not even think about that factor that Cam may want to go out a winner. His last game in Miami, he may not want it to be the Syracuse. He wants to go out and beat Iowa State and win. And like you said, so that's a great point. I didn't even think of that. A guy like Cam is a leader. He's a winner. He's obviously still vying for number 1 pick. I think Sanders is playing in his game, and Henry's and Travis Hunter is playing in their game. And there are rumors that if the Raiders get Sanders, they're going to take Deion also. I don't know how true that is.
Huh.
And so that's going around right now. And Brad mentioned that one of the guys that we're looking at was looking at Colorado, right? So if Deion left, there'd be a lot of players in play that have a lot of connections. Isn't Warren Sapp still on? Is he on the coaching staff still, Warren Sapp?
Yeah.
I don't know what he does, but so there's a lot of action that we'll find out soon enough. It'll be interesting if Cam plays. I mean, I kind of agree with Brad. Seeing Emory play would be kind of interesting. Also, there's the injury aspect. You want Cam to be healthy. I don't think Xavier's playing, but I don't know that 100% sure. I think that's up in the air. Have you heard that also?
Yeah. Look, I'll share this from what I know just historically with Rosenhaus and his clients. They tend to opt out. And I understand his approach. I'm not speaking negative about Drew Rosenhaus and his agency. They have good reason for it. I could go dating back to, what was it? Was it the 2008 bowl game, or I think 2009?
Melvin Bratton? Wow.
Greg Cooper, when he played up there at the Camping World Stadium, tore up his knee on those awful field conditions, ruined his NFL career.
Yeah. Melvin Bratton.
Damian Martinez. That's another name to think about when you just said that. Damian Martinez is a guy that I know he's going to be playing in the bowl game, but he's a guy that's kind of already paid his dues, in my opinion, as a running back.
I don't see the purpose of Damian Martinez coming back. Like Brad said, he's done all he can. He's a running back. You know how many years do they get? I know he was platoon this year. I don't see. I'd love to have him back.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Fletcher and Lyle want him back, but there's something that people, they want to run themselves. But
the expectation has been, though, that Damian will go to the NFL. That was the plan when he had transferred into Miami. So,
but if these guys all do play, I give Mario some credit. I give Cam credit because he's the leader of the team, but I got to give Mario some credit too. You look back at the guys that left last year, you say that we lost Kinchins, we lost James Williams. I mean, those guys come back, it's probably a different defense.
Oh, funny story about that. A little birdie told me right after Cam's decision that Kinchins and James Williams would have come back if they knew that Cam Ward was coming.
Wow.
So you mean to tell me if we would have got Cam Ward earlier, we would have had Jeremiah Smith, Cam Kitchens, and James Williams on this roster? Oh, my goodness.
Possibly others that signed. You're right. Can you imagine that? I wonder if Cam kicks himself for that because it was in his – I know he wanted to go to the NFL. He's much better positioned going to the NFL this year. And I remember saying to his dad, look at Joe Burrow. I mean, he came back and was the number one pick. That was before the season even started. And little did I know that actually could happen. He may be the number one. So it's going to be exciting. A lot of good things going to happen. Hopefully we bring in a bunch more of guys from the portal. Hopefully we get some good news on Horton. I assume we're all rooting for him to stay, correct?
Yep.
And I know his family loves it here. They had that toy drive. We made 30 jerseys for them and it's still in the store, which could be on discount soon. But yeah, so hopefully, he's 6'4". He reminded me of one of the Miami big receivers that I thought he could be special. Given the opportunity as being number one. So we'll see. And a lot of these guys mature different years, like we say.
Yeah.
So any last comments, Gio, from you? Anything you want to tell us about what you're doing or anything about the portal?
Expecting more commitments this week. I will say my comment about the bowl game. I think Cam and these certain players that are opting in, they're setting a phenomenal precedent for the program moving forward and culture, and just I hope that's built upon and that more of these guys playing in college, that they see this more and want to do more of it, because the bowl games have truly lost their luster since all this started with guys opting out. And I'll also say Christmas is right around the corner, people. If you have not headed down to CanesWear or got it on your computer or your iPhone or your Android phone at CanesWear.com, make sure you head over there. Or in Davie, 2655 South University Drive. Make sure to head on out there.
Thank you, Gio. Lots of good stuff. And bring an unused toy if you're coming in there. Bring in a new and unwrapped toy. You get 10% off your whole purchase, 10% off sale items. We got plenty of Cam. We just got some more Cam Ward jerseys. We got Cam Ward kid jerseys coming in. We got more Strepo jerseys coming in. Those seem to be the two jerseys. And, of course, we got Horton jerseys. And we have Fletcher jerseys coming in white. Great family, the Fletcher family. So, Brad, before you give your final words, or not, and I can talk all night, but I think Brad's getting a little tired there. Brad, who are we picking today? You got any that we haven't picked before? We got a lot of – thank you to everyone that's made their comments. Jorge says, George says the camping stadium has fixed the field, right, to AstroTurf. Is that correct now?
Yeah.
Okay, what was it before?
Patched.
It was like Veterans Stadium?
There was patches and holes and ditches everywhere. It was terrible.
Really
That's
bad.
good.
Greg Cooper's professional career ended that night.
That's sad. That's sad. Greg Coop. I mean, he definitely had something special. That would have been nice to see another Hurricane running back. 11-2 playing Emory who may not start next year. True, Roger. He may not be the starter next year. We saw Ja'Cory Brown last year in the bowl game, and he didn't even play for the team. But then again, we didn't have anybody to play, right? He was the only guy. It was him or nobody, right? I don't know who the other guy would have been.
I think tonight's winner, we're going to go with my guy, Lamont Morris. We are not going to get a DC until after the 28th. Gio said that as well. And Lamont is a huge Miami Hurricane fan, travels to all the home and away games for the most part. Super diehard, great guy. So we're going to give it to Lamont Morris. Make sure you hit me or Brett up at the end of the show or tomorrow, and we'll make sure you get that gift card, Lamont.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't got anything else, man. Great show as always. Make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button.
Absolutely.
And our guy Luke Nickel, he's currently playing in the state championship right now out there in Georgia. And I believe in the first half, our guy had 16 passes, 15 completed, for 337 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Half in the championship?
Yep.
I saw that bomb he threw. Was that like that floater that looked like it came down like the blimp?
Look, man, I don't know about this next year at quarterback, but the future is bright between Luke Nickel and Darion Coleman. I think we're in good hands.
Well, that's good. Gio, where should they find you?
Oh, everyone can find me on X at Gio Milian. You could also find me same handle on Instagram, or you could check out at Canes Universe on Instagram as well. We have a whole bunch of stuff going on there too.
Well, awesome stuff. Gio, thank you so much for joining us. You can join the program. Brad, you rock. Check out Brad at Tejada Brad. Also, when he does the CanesWear dailies, whenever he comes around and doing them. So thank you guys for joining us. Great show. Thank you to Bobby for putting this all together. Of course, Finn Sports Talk Network, FSTN, right? FSTN. What's that? FTSN.
FTS.
Subscribe. FTSN. That's something about those letters. So thank you guys. Go Canes. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy holidays to everybody. It's all about the you.